Sauce, cheese, and bread. There's nothing more straightforward than pizza. I know I'm no Dave Portnoy, but today I'm gonna take you to some of my favorite spots in the city. Filming in public is my least favorite activity. The incredible shame and embarrassment sometimes is unbearable, but I really love food tours, and New York City has a lot to offer, so I'll slowly get over it.
I'm gonna give you what you want.
When we come back, I'll also teach you a few methods to make a good pizza at home. So here it is, another food tour / cooking video. Are you excited? Our first spot is called Scar's Pizza. It's the closest one to my house. Every time I walk by, there's a huge line. It doesn't end till 2 a.m. Fun fact, the first time I came here with my friend, we ran into Blake Lively.
Spotted on the Lower East Side, bag behind the bag, Serena Vanderwoodson.
Scar's used to be just like a hole in the wall across the street. After they got uncontrollably popular, they had to move to a bigger place. This is their by the slice takeout counter, and if you want to order a whole pie, there's a whole room of tables back there. I love the new spot. There's more space, a bar, and what looks to be the most awesome machine of all time. This is the most popular slice, topped with pepperoni, jalapeno, and hot honey. They call this the Hot Boy, so clearly it is named after me.
Clearly, it isn't.
I love how everything just melted into it and became one instead of a cheese pizza with toppings on it. Check out the bubbles over here, yo. Good work on the fermentation. The bottom is evenly baked with little charred spots all over. It's dripping grease. Some people don't like it, but I prefer it because I can relate. Once folded over, I see minimal floppage, which leads to a perfect delivery into my mouth. Let's give it a taste and rate it 1 through 10.
Damn.
It's a perfectly executed pepperoni pizza with the added complexity from the jalapeno and the sweet hot honey. 8.8 out of 10. It's just a little bit soggy. I usually don't eat the crust, but look how beautiful this is. I should have pizza for breakfast more often. So Grand Street Pizza is located on Grand Street and they sell pizza. You're welcome for the information. This is my personal favorite. I come here every Thursday. Super cozy, more like a neighborhood spot. Every place in Manhattan uses these gas ones. If you want real wood-fired pizza, you're gonna have to go down to Brooklyn, which is something I'm too lazy to do. People from all walks of life come here to drink and have pizza. I guess relative to morality, human nature is more grounded by love of pizza. The best part of Grand Street is that they give you unlimited Mike's hot honey. If you bring a few slices of jalapeno and put it on top, you can make the Hot Boy from Scar's Pizza. With bigger portions of toppings, we're gonna have to call it the Fuck Boy. Look at its beauty in natural sunlight. I can see my reflection on top of those meaty pools of grease inside those Roni cups. It really projects the self-loathe as I'm about to shove it down my throat. Look at this crust. This is what I call perfectly charred. I guess the ovens here are hotter than the last place. As I'm folding it over, the crust is so airy and crispy, which is always a good sign. And look at this, zero floppage. I'm about to display emotion, so I apologize. I've never had a pizza that was crispy throughout, even the tip. Usually after like 30 seconds out of the oven, the sauce would have already soaked the crust. But this is different. This is like cheesy pepperoni goodness on a piece of crispy paper. And you see the edges of those pepperoni got a little crunchy too. This is definitely my best slice in New York City, ironically being the closest to my house. It's great for people watching too. You should check this place out. But don't crowd this place on Thursdays, please. Look, they're already ready for Christmas. Didn't want to walk all the way to Prince Street, so I ordered Uber Eats. I guess the holiday season is upon us because this feels like opening a present. Always a great feeling to get a freshly baked pie from Prince Street. The style is significantly different from the 2 other places. I think this pizza identifies as a Sicilian sheet pizza. The delivery took longer than I expected, so the bottom got a little soggy. I'm gonna have to heat it up in the oven later. Such a great idea to overload the pizza with pepperoni. Even a greater idea to bake them till they form little cups. Because of the style, the crust is thicker, but it's still perfectly baked, a little charred on the edges. So let's give it a taste and rate it 1 through 10. I had to reclaim my property there. While this particular slice is not that great, just because how soggy it is, but at its prime, it should have a thick but flavorful crust, topped with spicy tomato sauce that pairs perfectly with the greasy Roni cups. To save the day, I'm gonna have to have it my favorite way, the WAP, which stands for wine and pizza. With a glass of semi-sweet Riesling, it elevated the experience to a 9.1. Most of the time, I prefer the real WAP, which stands for wings and pizza. What a great day of eating. Let's clean up this kitchen and we'll learn a few methods of homemade pizza. Let's start with the dough, which you can use for all types of pizza. 2 1/4 teaspoon of instant yeast. Bloom it in 1 3/4 cup of warm water. Should be around 110 Fahrenheit. Give it a quick mix with the Ligma fork and let it sit on the counter for about 15 minutes. You should see the yeast bubbling up. After that, we'll add 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 2 teaspoons of salt, and 2 cups of flour. We're doing 4 cups in total, but doing 2 cups at a time makes it easier to mix when you don't have a stand mixer. Knead it by hand till it's pliable. It's okay if it's a little wet. In a separate bowl, we'll pour in half a cup of olive oil. Let the dough rest in the oil covered overnight. While we wait for the dough, let's make a spicy pizza sauce. Chopping the onions as fine as possible because I don't have a blender. The texture is going to be a little rough, but my mouth is used to roughness. This can has a nice personality. We'll stir in a tablespoon of tomato paste. Once it starts to caramelize, we'll pour in the whole tomato. To season, we'll do oregano, black pepper, chili oil, and salt. You can do whatever you want. And now for a smooth texture, we'll mash it up with the Ligma fork. After it simmers for 15 to 20 minutes, time to take it to the next level. We'll take the confit garlic and puree it through a fine sieve. I didn't add it earlier because you really shouldn't heat up garlic after it's cooked. Or at all, really. Mix it all in and our sauce is done. After resting a whole night in the fridge, our dough has developed a lot of interesting flavors. Now make sure you oil up the sheet pan really well. Put the dough directly on top and start spreading it. You're gonna feel a little bit of resistance because it's still cold. That's why we're gonna cover it and let it rest for another hour. Now I'm gonna go into my bedroom to grab our last ingredient. I couldn't find pepperoni, but this got truffle in it, so it must be good. You guys know how much I love individually packed sausages. Once we cut it as thin as possible, we can start the assembling process. Start by giving the dough one last spread to reach all the corners. Layer in the tomato sauce. Don't go overboard, you just need to lightly brush it. Some pecorino romano, some mozzarella. Arrange the quote-unquote pepperonis on there so it doesn't look vegetarian. Before it goes into the oven at maximum heat, we gotta bless it with my never-ending raclette. Yeah! I'm doing 475 because that's the highest it can go, but if you can do 500, that would be better. This is after 10 minutes. We gotta bake it for another 5. After a total of 15 minutes in the oven, everything's golden and beautiful. Cheese all bubbled up without separating. The crust should be crispy and nicely charred. Honestly, if you don't look at the other side, it looks really legit. You know how much I love the centerpiece, but unfortunately it's extremely soggy and kinda sad. I think we should give it another try with a new method. But let's give it a taste and read it 1 through 10.
I thought that I've been hurt before.
I'm starting to believe that texture is more important to a pizza than flavors. I feel like I'm eating a piece of soaked bread with cheese. Maybe baking it directly on a pizza steel or transferring it to a wired rack halfway would solve the problem. To get a crispier crust and an easier process, let's try out this 1 hour long pizza recipe. I learned this recipe from Brian Lagerstorm. Also saw a similar one on tasty.com. Since there's no resting, we're using beer to enhance the yeasty flavor. 150 grams warmed up to about 90 degrees Fahrenheit. 8 grams of instant yeast is a lot more than usual because we want to speed up the process. A teaspoon of sugar, 2 teaspoons of salt, 2 tablespoons or 13 grams of olive oil, and finally 240 grams of all-purpose flour. The recipe calls for bread flour, but it's called all-purpose for a reason. Cover and rest for 15 minutes, and then do some stretching and folding. You can do it however you like. We're just trying to develop some gluten. It's not that deep. Cover and rest for another 15. This piece is going to be completely done in a pan. When the dough doubles in size, we'll put it directly in an oiled up skillet. Spread it out as much as possible. This dough might be too big for this 10-inch pan, so I'm switching to a 12-inch one. Missing a couple inches might not be a problem for me in real life, but it is a problem here. Now the assembling process is pretty much the same as before. A layer of sauce, sprinkle of pecorino, couple slices of Monster because I need to get rid of it. For the mozzarella, you want to sprinkle some towards the edge of the pan too, so it gets nice and crispy. And finally, bless it with my never-ending raclette and pepperoni. Into the oven at maximum heat for about 18 minutes. Now to solve the problem of a soggy crust that we had earlier, we're gonna put it on fire for a few minutes. Hopefully it will crisp it up. 5 minutes should be enough. We'll rest on a wired rack. At this point the bottom should be nicely charred. Maybe a little too charred. The cheese is nicely golden, edges got a little crispy. This pan pizza is starting to look like the real deal. Before I cut into it, let's sanitize it with Instagram.
What's poppin'? Brand new whip, just hopped in. I got options. I can pass that like Stockton.
Definitely passes the sound check. This one actually seems a lot better than the last one. Now check out the cheese pull. It kind of reminds me of an end of semester party at a middle school. Color is a little darker than I expected, but just like me, once it goes black, it never goes back. Let's give it a taste and rate it 1 through 10. The texture is way better, very crunchy, and the inside is soft, chewy, and airy. The couple layers of cheese impose a lot of complex flavors. I think this is pretty much a midpoint between a thin New York pizza and a Chicago deep dish. Both we've made before. If you're interested, check them out. Overall, I'm very pleasantly surprised by this pan pizza method. I'll give it a 9 out of 10. It's quick and easy to make, and it's really delicious. Give it a try if you want. I said in the last video that I'll be taking a break for a while. After a day of sitting around, I realized I actually feel much better when cooking and making videos. I guess I didn't realize I already developed a deep passion for this. Or maybe I just have nothing better to do. Either way, I'm back and you guys are gonna be stuck with me for a long time. Alright, thank you.